This is Woodwords the podcast, a production of the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild, with host Kevin Thomas. Here's your host, Kevin Thomas.
Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of 2023 of the Woodwords the podcast. I'm Kevin Thomas, your host. I'm joined with the usual suspects of Mike Jones and Grace Ambrose. We're ready to get another year under our belts, so we're looking for inspiration for the new year. Start with how did your holidays go, Mike?
It was relatively busy. I actually got some last minute orders for cutting boards, which thankfully I had material on hand and didn't take a lot of extraneous work to pull that off.
Nice.
Customers were quite happy. So that's always what matters. Then, of course, I finished the big project, got it installed right before Christmas at St. Robert Bellarmine Parish. So that was a major load off of my plate.
Big ones out of the way. Rest. How about you, Grace?
The holidays were good. I took some time off of work, so I was able to work on not any woodworking projects, but sort of the construction projects I have going on.
Was there wood involved?
There was wood involved.
Okay, we'll count that.
I have a reclaimed tongue and groove oak flooring that I put in the kitchen. That looked great.
That's good. Me, I made clocks. Made a clock for each of my wife's siblings and my sister. Time this is posted. Prize isn't hurried. But other than that, it was a good Christmas and everything. Time spent with grandkids. And so, start off with resolutions. Have a New Year's resolution.
You know,
Believe in that.
I don't do that. I've never made New Year's resolutions. Don't know why. Well, I would theorize that I don't do it because most everybody I know that does New Year's resolutions never fulfills them. Or like the diet thing. They go on a diet for New Year's, or they're gonna stop doing this or stop doing that, and then 3 months later they're right back to the old lifestyle. So I don't do it. My resolution is to take one day at a time.
Good one. Grace?
I don't know if I had a resolution, but I guess like one of my woodworking goals for 2020 is I'm gonna build a stick chair this year. I bought the video from Lost Art Press that they made recently. It's like a part video or something. And I have a couple friends and we're all gonna work on chairs together. So that is something that I'm looking forward to, and I figure in the whole year I can probably get a chair done. So we'll see.
Are you going to work on that here at the guild?
Probably some of it, but part of the appeal of this particular style of chair is that I don't need everything we have at the guild. I could do it in my shop at home. Good. So some of the people that want to work on it with me are members of the guild and some are not.
That could be an interesting road trip for you to take over north of Wentzville, Missouri, basically up the Mississippi from St. Louis, halfway between Hannibal and Wentzville is a little town called Clarksville. And there's a shop there that is owned by Karen Quick. Ralph, her husband, passed away a few years ago, but they came to the guild years ago when we were in Merriam and did a class on Windsor chair making.
Cool.
And of course, Ralph dressed in period costume and the whole 9 yards. So did Karen. It was a fabulous class. He actually took classes originally from Mike Dunbar, who ran a Windsor Chair School back east for years. But they still run that Windsor Chair Studio over in Clarksville. I don't know who's actually making the chairs now, but
Yeah.
I know,
That's a kind of a fun road trip
Totally.
to
Yeah.
go there, check it out. It's a
Definitely.
whole artist community along the Mississippi there.
Cool.
I know Karen was expert paint and
Yeah.
how to different techniques. So they're still in business. Recommend.
Great. Definitely.
Um, we look at uh, favorite tools. If you've got something that you can't have a particular.
I'd have to say that my favorite tool, and that narrows it down to my collection of hand tools, which is pretty limited because I have to admit I'm not a big hand tool guy, but the most fun and the most practical tool I've ever owned as a hand tool is my number 71, my router plane
Router
Mhm.
plane.
that I ended up buying. I think I bought it off of eBay from some guy, maybe saved $20 over the actual cost of it, getting it from Lee Nielsen. I love using that plane because especially when you're wanting to clean out rabbits or
Oh, yeah.
dados
Mhm.
Rabbits and
and get them dead on flat inside, that's the tool to use. And I love that plane for that very reason.
they're also good for cleaning out the bottom.
Yep. I would have given anything to have had that number 71 when I was building houses and doing custom historic preservation work, because I was forever having to remortise doors. And that is a great tool to have when you're mortising hinges.
What about you, Grace?
I don't know that I actually, this is a funny question I ask a lot on the construction job site. I ask this question to people all the time, but I haven't really thought about it too much with woodworking tools. I guess one of the things that I like about being here at the guild is, I don't know if this just counts as a tool, but like all the different jigs and stuff that we have here, which practically I'm not going to build all of those for my shop at home, or even just thinking about the jig that Tim Locke had set up for us in the last class, intermediate class, to cut the bridle joints. It's something that, some things that are so simple but extremely effective. I think that's kind of a similar principle to the idea of like these planes that like they have, you know, can't fuck it up really because they have one job and they do it. But yeah, it's beep, swear jar, or whatever. Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, things like that that are very simple and not too fancy, I think are really appealing.
I went back to the tool cabinet here and got out Guild's version of my favorite tool, the number 60 and a half Lee Nielsen adjustable mouth block plane,
Low angle.
low angle, and I've got one of these at home, and it is always within reach when I'm bench, and a lot of times when I'm working here with some of the students, especially in basic, they're trying to clean up rabbits. I'll get them the 60 and a half low angle rabbiting block. They charge you about $40 more for taking fewer material out of the set. But they're really handy for cleaning rabbits up and getting right up close to shoulder on.
You know, back in the day when I was building houses, specifically doing historic preservation work, we were always having to fine tune and dial in miter cuts and things of that sort. And I carried my block plane in my tool belt. It wasn't something I kept in the toolbox. It was in my tool belt right there where I could get to it immediately because I used it constant. And it was one of those aha moments when I learned to sharpen that plane iron, how much better that plane worked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's remarkable that all the different sharpening devices available out there in the market today. Doesn't matter what you use to sharpen. The key is to learn how to sharpen and
Yeah.
sharpen well. And planes are virtually worthless tools if you don't know how to sharpen the plane iron that's going.
I was growing up, my dad had two planes. He had a number 5 and one of these in a Stanley version. And I always used to get so frustrated when I was a kid because shaving out of it cut. And then I finally had one of those aha moments when I realized, oh, you got to sharpen it. I've still got those two planes of his, and I put a good edge on the blade and wispy curls of shavings off. That makes all the difference in the world. About anything new you've used that you want to give a
It's not,
review of? Or?
yeah, it's not a tool. As you might recall, we had George Walker here several years back to do a class on learning proportion. He and Jim Tolpin co-authored the book By Hand and Eye. And they've recently released through Lost Art Press their companion book to that, and it's called, I just went completely blank on the name of that. Blank, there we go, senior moment. But anyway, the companion book to it gets into the details of how to make tri-squares, shooting boards, winding sticks, a straight edge. You don't think about how often you need a straight edge. But again, reflecting back, as those two guys have masterfully
Store.
Yes, thank you. Those guys have masterfully developed a book that talks about and brings you to that realization that the ancients didn't have Stanley Tool Company around making tapes or squares or planes or anything else. So they had to rely on methods of making their own tools to establish a square edge.
Stanley wasn't around, but I was thinking about 5 minutes ago, actually Stanley Fat Max tape measure. That's my favorite tool, probably.
Yeah.
Like, except no substitutes. That's the only one.
Pull that out
yeah.
30 feet
30
and it doesn't
feet,
break
yeah,
away.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's true. It's like you don't need to buy like these one function, one use tools that do a really, there's, I think that's like the whole part of the whole Lost Art Press thing too, where it's like not trying to be super consumerist or wasteful, and like you could go spend hundreds of dollars at Rockler on some stuff when really you might need 5 basic things that we have the capability to make, right?
Well, I think it would be a nice challenge to throw down to all the members of the guild, especially the newer members, to take the time to find out how to make your own set of layout tools.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's extraordinary how simple it really is, and it gives you kind of that impetus to get into the bench shop and start using hand tools, because that's what you're going to make them out.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, that sounds like a good idea for a class. Would you teach that?
Well, I think that would be a worthwhile class to teach, and if I could, probably figure out a way to do it in collaboration with Rob Young, because Rob has always been about making his own tools like that, and he has made several squares and straight edges, winding sticks. In fact, I believe the set of winding sticks we have in the cabinet in there, Rob made.
So I know I took a class with him where we made the anarchist square.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
So,
And I took the class from him and didn't get to finish the project, but making your own handsaw, your own backs.
one of these days.
Yeah, if Rob's tuning into this podcast, maybe that would give him some impetus to have a follow-up class for those of us who didn't finish the job.
I'm going to give an unbiased review.
Unbiased?
Yes,
We're not sponsored by
we're not
3M,
sponsored by
so-
anybody, but a while last month or the month before last, November, when Taylor Tools was here during our monthly membership,
Mike
Taylor, yeah. He left us some samples of the 3M extract sanding disc for 5-inch sanders, and I used it on the projects I was working on over Christmas, and I actually love these. As a person who deals with a chronic disease that affects my lungs, I had almost no dust to deal with, plus everything. One pad lasted through. I could still use it. So. And they're reasonable price through Taylor Tools. So, Mike Taylor, if you're out there, we want to sponsor a podcast. You got willing participants here. This is a really good product, reasonably priced as sanding pads.
Yeah, they're very inexpensive, and when you weigh the cost per pad as compared to the life expectancy of the pad, it's hands down the best value in the market. Nothing will beat it. And I've got an overabundance of a competitor brand. I won't name it, but it's what I would have considered to be probably the best that you could buy. And turns out it's kind of the middle of the road. It's not really the best. We were fortunate to have the Merca rep come in here some time ago and donated a palm sander to us. And I believe Craig Arnold turned me on to the Merca ceramic faced discs a couple years ago at Woodcraft. And so I bought a bunch of the Merca pads. And then I follow a lot of people, of course, on Instagram, one of which is Jonathan Katz Moses.
Mm-hmm.
And Jonathan Katz Moses went and tested every brand of sanding pad out there through a testing lab out in California. Paid for the testing himself in order to have an unbiased examination of all the different brands. And the Cubitron, the 3M Cubitron extract was the hands down top of the line winner. Outlasted, took off more material in less time. Everything that you would weigh the value and the benefit of that particular product, he tested it in that manner, and it came out crazy how much better it was. So I've never used anything but that now. I bought a bunch from Taylor Tool Works. They ran a special on it last year, that last summer, I believe. I grabbed onto a bunch of it.
And what were you saying earlier, that the key is having your desk set up?
Absolutely. It doesn't matter if you do it the way Kevin was doing it, hooking your shop vac up to your palm sander, or if you've got a Festool or a Merca. 3M is now making a dust extraction system. There's quite a few companies out there. We've got a couple of DeWalt's here, and the nice thing is they're HEPA filtered, so you can use them inside the house. With all the stuff you're doing inside your house.
I mean, I use my DeWalt with the HEPA filter.
It saves you a lot of hours of cleanup work down the road when you have to get all that dust out of there.
I can honestly say that these made my old Ryobi cheap sander form like a line sander with I had a shop vac attached.
I didn't realize that when Taylor Tool Works started selling the 3M palm sander, and it's not cheap. It's probably on par with the cost of a Festool, maybe a little bit less than the Festool.
Yeah.
It's comparable to the Mirka. I didn't realize it, but the better quality, more expensive random orbit sanders uh, do a random orbit in like a 3/16 of an inch spiral versus the DeWalt's and all the other palm sanders that are bought at the big box stores that throw like a quarter of an inch. How much difference there is and how much difference that makes in the end result of your sanding work. There's nothing worse than to get a piece completely sanded and ready, you start throwing stain on it or stain finish on it. All of a sudden you got pigtails all over the surface of your work. Believe me, I've been there and done that. It's frustrating, and it means basically go cut that finish off and start all over again. And if you go back and sand it with the same sander without dust extraction, you're just repeating the problem. So dust extraction is really, really critical these days.
I've gotten in the habit of, once my random orbital sander, I'll go back through with usually whatever the last grit was.
Yeah, with the grain.
With the grain to get rid of those pigtails. I get a halfway decent finish out of it that way.
See, that's what I've liked about the new extract, Cubitron extract. It's a net back, and it's got that W pattern in it, so that you got a lot of open net in between the grits. If you're getting good dust extraction, you won't have pigtails, because that's what's causing it. It's a buildup of material, and that's what's leaving the swirl marks. I have to tell you, I do have a favorite tool now that I think about it, because I ended up investing in it, and that's the Festool ES125 5-inch palm sander. I've got a Festool Rodex I've had for quite a few years. Not real comfortable. In fact, it's kind of clunky, kind of heavy. But that 125, man, it fits in the palm of my hand. It doesn't throw a lot of vibration into my hand, and it's just so smooth and easy to use. So that would be my new favorite tool.
You don't really realize how much vibration you get.
Oh,
You've
boy.
been sanding on some through the grits. And
I know Grace can't relate to this, but when you reach a certain age and a certain number of years of experience destroying your hands and your wrists and your elbows, vibration does become a big factor in how you feel the next morning after you've spent the whole day sanding a project. You'll get there someday, Grace.
My body hurts sometimes too, you know.
Well,
that
yeah.
flooring nailer last week, I was like ready to throw in the towel.
I guess I'll bring up something. A article was published in latest issue of Pop. Little ingrain on the last page, and we've already gotten some feedback from outside of the day after it hit mailboxes. I got 2 emails, one from Wisconsin and another one from Georgia. Read it and how to do some similar program wherever they're at. Of course, one of them was a guy that was trying to get his grandkids. Suggested to him Doug Stowe's Woodworking with Kids.
Yeah, it's like good publication.
The other gentleman was with the Wisconsin Woodworkers Guild. I think they're near Milwaukee. Doing our part to share our knowledge with them. So gave him our basic training manual. So we'll see.
That's something that really we need to give credit to those who initiated our safety manual years ago. Chuck Slagle, who was originally director of safety for Sprint here in Kansas City and was also formerly a high school shop teacher. He's the one that drafted a big part of that. And then, of course, there were quite a few other people that contributed as well over the years in the safety committee to create one of the most comprehensive safety programs of anybody in this industry. And surprisingly, there are a lot of community shops, shared shops around the country. And there's also quite a number of junior colleges that are offering trade programs that have contacted us asking if they can use our safety manual. So that kind of speaks volumes towards the quality of work and blood, sweat, and tears that was put into developing that safety manual that we have.
Our basic woodworking program has become quite popular. It's our class, and I always try to recruit the next instructors out of class. Like we're going to have a new lead instructor this time around on the cutting board. Isn't that right, Grace?
That's correct. On Thursday, hopefully.
Grace said yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's also part of, Kevin's plugging something. I'll also plug. I joined the core committee of this organization called the Chairmaker's Toolbox, which was founded by Aspen Golan, who's a woodworker, a furniture maker. And it's all about facilitating opportunities for woodworking education for people who have maybe historically felt excluded from shop spaces. So women and queer people and people of color. And that's been really interesting because, of course, I love my woodworking community here at the Guild, but it's been really nice to connect with other woodworkers all around the country as we all figure out what this organization is going to look like and what kind of class. We partner with instructors and shops all over the place to offer classes or tools or even like downloadable plans, and trying to get those resources out to people. So I encourage everyone in the Guild who wants to, facilitate new woodworkers, everybody I know, to check out that project. Maybe one time we could have an episode of the podcast where we Zoom some of the other people in that are working on talk about that whole thing.
Now I know they have partnered with Lost Art Press on a training the trainers type deal.
Yep. Yeah.
Is that something you're looking at?
Yeah, I would love to take a class there. That's like obviously one of the more. That's a class where it's about encouraging people who have some kind of teaching practice to come and learn how to make a chair with Chris Schwartz and Megan Fitzpatrick. I think that's great. I would love to do that, but it's hugely popular and there's so many people in the country that are for that. But yeah, there's all kinds of classes, most of which are focused on people who are also educated, how that they can get out and spread.
We're getting you into the education part.
Yeah. Trying. Yeah, I'll teach everyone how to glue up a cutting board next week, and hopefully it'll go well.
People don't really think about it, but
Yeah.
it's not just slapping a bunch of glue on it and sticking it together.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it, and that's one of the basic rudimentary skills you have to develop in woodworking to
Yes.
understand how much is too much glue.
Yeah, maybe my favorite tool is my glue scraper that we made in the basic woodworking class, because a lot of the time I got too much glue on there and that thing takes it right off.
Pratsomatic glue scraper.
Yeah, the wireless scraper.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, any last thoughts? We're getting near closing.
It's funny. I've had, as shop foreman, especially in here on first Saturday of the month, we seem to get a lot of walk-ins who've heard about us from somebody, or they've heard about us down at Woodcraft. I noticed when I was at Pompey Distributors the other day picking up material that we've got brochures on the counter there. I didn't realize we were leaving membership brochures over there. But there seems to be a lot of people hearing about the guild and wanting to come in and join. I think we've got 16 people signed up to do the safety orientation this coming Sunday, and then we're going to do I'll be doing another one last Sunday of the month. Because we've got so many people joining, which is a pretty common thing for the guild. We get a lot of people joining right around the first of the year. But I'm noticing the trend is not just a bunch of retired guys anymore. We're starting to see a lot of young people, women joining. I love it because it is not generational. It is not sex. It doesn't matter. If there is an interest, even a remote interest in learning how to do woodworking, this is the place to do it. I've told people for years, it's obviously what we have for a shop is a great value to have access to this shop. The greater value is the access to the collective knowledge that exists here. There are an amazing, phenomenal, high-level woodworking skills and talents that are members here. A person wants to learn how to woodworking, they won't have any trouble finding somebody to help them.
We're not just a bunch of old white men.
No.
Anything in closing, Grace?
I don't think so. I'm looking forward to more time in the shop this year, and
Can't go wrong with more time in the shop. We want to, as we leave you this time, try to be on a more consistent basis with our publications of this, and try and come up with good content to keep you involved. So remember, as always, if you like it, click the like button, subscribe, share. Let us let us know we're doing okay and that you're enjoying it. At least we hope you're enjoying it. So until next time, for Grace and Mike, remember to get your sawdust on and work safely, and we'll catch you next time. Night.
how fancy.
This has been Woodwords the Podcast, a production of the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild, with host Kevin Thomas and producer Chris McCauley. A special thank you to our guest today, to the Guild's Leadership Committee, and to all of our sponsors. For more information about the Guild, upcoming classes, and events, please visit our website kcwg.org. You can also find us on social media by searching for Kansas City Woodworkers Guild. And remember to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. For more videos, please check out our YouTube channel. If you like this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.